Okay, tell everyone. Very good Erev Shabbat. This week's Parsha Toldot concerns itself with very nebulous ideas that oftentimes we find difficult to realize what's the problem. Now, the idea of the Bechorah, that the one son will inherit more than other sons, that exists throughout human history. But that's on tangible items. Property, money, livestock. But then there is, that's not the bracha though, that's the Bechorah. They have the same lettering, but in different order. So that Yaakov purchased from Esau. The dish of lentils, whatever their arrangement was. Now, Esau can have buyer's remorse, or seller's remorse, rather. He can be sorry that he sold it to him, but sold is sold. A deal is a deal. But there's a second item that is in dispute. And that second item is the brachot, blessings. What's the blessing that Yitzchak wished to give to Esau, but that Yaakov, under the instructions of his mother, disguises himself so that Yitzchak gives the bracha to Yaakov. Now, a bracha is intangible. It's not something that can even be easily defined. It's not property. It has no immediate ability to be translated into monetary value or to anything else. So we find that when Esau comes and discovers to his horror that Yaakov has obtained the bracha, the blessing, here he doesn't complain about the Bechorah. He will complain later again about the Bechorah as well, because he will say that Yaakov took advantage of him. Basically, he says, I'm dying of hunger. And so, whatever he says, I have to give him. But in my heart, I never meant to give it to him. But the halacha always is that dvorim shebelev einam dvorim. What the person's intent was, what he thought, what he believed, doesn't have anything to do with the transaction. The transaction stands by itself and is inviolate. But he complains about the bracha. and one of the most emotional, I'm using that word guardedly, psukim in the Torah is the cry of Esau when he discovers that Yaakov has the bracha. And he says to Yitzchak, "Abrocha achas lacha ali." You have only one bracha. V'cheni gamoni avi. Bless me too. And he weeps. Now, Esau is the strong man, powerful physically and emotionally. He weeps over the fact that he doesn't have the bracha. So what's the bracha? And when we read about the bracha that Yaakov got, we don't see much in it. You'll have prosperity. Prosperity is not a zero-sum game. I can be prosperous and you can be prosperous. It's not exclusive. A bracha, people often think is a talent. Well, talent is also not a zero-sum game. I can be a great opera singer. Yes, I could be. And you can be a great opera singer. My having the bracha does not exclude your bracha. I can become wealthy and you can become wealthy. The brachas are always things that can be distributed upon within all of humankind. Talent is not exclusive. Some people have more, some people have less, some people train, some people don't. Okay, but it's recognizable that everybody can have a bracha. And that's what Esau says to Yaakov. A bracha achas lacha. Is this an exclusive bracha? You only have one bracha? You give me also, you can give me the same bracha. I'm not taking it away from Yaakov. Yitzchak tells him, no, that's it. Your brother came through a clever subterfuge, and he took the bracha. Now what? What do you want from me? I don't have any more brachas. What do you mean you don't have any more brachas? What was the bracha of it? Whatever it is, Esau can also have it. Where's the exclusivity here? Where's the fact that if the bracha went to Yaakov, it cannot go to Esau as well? Well, what does Esau realizes that? He realizes, and he says, no, make the brachas like everything else in life, accessible to all. Everybody can. And Yaakov and Esau bases it upon what was told to his grandfather Avraham. The Ribono Shel Olam said to him, "V'nivrachu b'cho kol goyei haaretz." Everybody will be blessed through you. So I gave you the bracha, Avram, but that's not the bracha is for everybody. The bracha is for Yishmael too. And here the bracha is exclusive. And Esau realizes it's exclusive. And that's why he is so bitter. And he weeps. And he shouts. So apparently there is a bracha that is not able to be given to everyone. That is exclusive. And that defines pretty much the role of the Jewish people throughout the ages. Yaakov has the bracha, so Esau cannot have it. Because this bracha is dependent not upon physical things. Physical things can be emulated. He gave me this piece of land here, so I'll give you another piece of land instead. And this precious stone, so I'll give you another precious stone. Everything in the physical world can be emulated, can be copied. You don't, even the things that we consider to be rare, it's only till we find what's just like it. But human beings have the ability to create things that cannot be copied. I was once in the Louvre in Paris, and I don't know why, but there was a very small crowd, and I was able to stand in front of the Mona Lisa for about 10 minutes, look at it. And there was a guide there. The best of all worlds is that you attach yourself to a group that you didn't pay for, and you hear what the guide has to say. And he said that there are over, I think he said 6,000 copies of the Mona Lisa in existence by other artists. And they are all, they're not stick drawings. I mean, there's artistic talent. But there's only one Mona Lisa. The only one. Can't be copied. For whatever reason, the genius of the artist is in that painting. And the genius of the artist, like the talent of the human being, is exclusive to that human being. It cannot be divided. It can't be copied. So the brachas that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov are not tangible ones. We think of that in terms of spiritual ones, but the word spiritual is very overdone in our time. But it's something that cannot be easily defined, but we know it to be unique. We know it to be rare. We know that it can't be copied. It's not the same. There's an essay by Rabbi Yosef Albo, the Baal HaIkorim. So he wrote a sefer called Ikorim, the main ideas of Judaism. Now, Rabbi Yosef Albo lived in Spain and he lived in Spain at the time when the Spanish authorities were already forcibly converting Jews to Christianity. And in 1391, there was a great pogrom where many thousands of Jews converted. And then we all know in 1492, the choice was whether to convert or to leave the country. Preparatory to the great pogrom, the church decreed that the Jews had to engage in a debate. How do we have a debate that the Ramban engaged in 1267 in Barcelona before Shavuos? The Ramban left for us a record, a transcript of the debate with the forces of the church were led by a Jewish apostate. And the Ramban won from the King of Spain the right to speak freely without consequence. Because if you said anything against the church or against Christianity, it was blasphemy. It was punishable by death. The king said, no, you can say whatever you want. And therefore, it's a unusual debate. Well, because the Ramban did say whatever he wanted to say. 100 years later, more than a century later, there was another great debate that the church forced upon the Jews of Spain. But this time they did not have freedom of speech. So it's a one-sided debate. And we have a record of that debate too. And the Jewish side was led by Rabbi Yosef Albo, who was like the leading rabbi of that area at the time. So there's most of the time, all of his answers are muted because there were 300 rabbis. The pressure on them was so great that out of the 300, almost half of them converted to Christianity during the debate. So we cannot judge, but it's a noteworthy thing. But he has one sentence in his response that apparently escaped the notice of the censors, perhaps even of the church. And he said, in effect, you know that we cannot both be right. Now, there are many things in life when both sides are right. The old joke about the Rebbitzin, right? That she overhears there's a din Torah, and one side presents its case, and the rabbi says, you're right. And then the other side presents its case and says, you're right. The rabbi says, you're also right. So she bursts out And she says, my dear husband, how can they both be right? He said, you're also right. But in life, in most instances, both sides have right and they have wrong. Both sides have the ability to make a case for their position. We're very happy to decide elections 51-49. So if you'll think about it, why should that be sufficient to decide anything? So Yosef Halbo said, but this case, we cannot both be right. There are things that are a zero-sum game. And that's the brachas that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov. Those brachas cannot be replicated. He can give Esau other brachas, which he does. Achar b'chotichya, you'll be powerful, you'll be, they're all other brachas. But the bracha that civilization will be built upon the principles of Avraham and Yitzchak and upon a monotheistic belief in God, that cannot be divided. And therefore, Esau is frustrated because it's a bracha that cannot be shared. And therefore, he says, "Abrocha achas l'chalavi." So that's not only a question, that's a statement. There is only one blessing. There's a blessing that cannot be shared. There's a blessing that both of us cannot be right. And that's the story of the Jewish people throughout the ages. And that's in effect what the Jewish people have said to the world throughout the ages and what the Torah teaches us. You can't both be right. There are hard choices. What you believe, how you behave, what you think is important, what's your value system. Part of the problem we have in Western society today is that we try to reconcile ideas and values that are so contradictory that they both cannot be right. We're so afflicted with the idea to be tolerant, be inclusive, non-judgmental. But deep down, we realize that that's impossible. Cannot both be right. It has to do with so many issues which are part of the civil discourse of our time. So Esau says, "Borcheni gamoni yovi," give me also a blessing. And Yitzchak says, "Mo'etein lecha," what blessing can I give you? I only gave here indivisible, non-copying brachos. You can't imitate them. I'm powerless. And therefore he says, Gam Baruch Yeh. So the one who got the bracha, may he be blessed. Esau has a world of brachas. Other brachas are his. Power, territory, armies, empires. But Esau knows deep down that he is lacking the bracha. Because all of those other brachas are part of a system that allows for others to share the bracha as well. This is a powerful country. There are other powerful countries. This is a wealthy trade. This is a wealthy trade. But when you're talking about a bracha that's either or, that you have to choose, so then there is no way that one can be comfortable regarding the choice. And that's what Yitzchak told Yaakov, that if you don't want the bracha, so then Esau will come and take the bracha. If you think that that's not a bracha, somebody else will come and take it. But the bracha is not shared. You will give it up. Someone else will take it. And all of Judaism is based upon that idea that we don't share. We share values, ideas, goodness, charity. But you can't share the purpose. You can't share the bracha. Because the bracha is exclusive. It's limited. It can only be either Yaakov has it or Esau has it. And so the competition between Yaakov and Esau has lasted a few thousand years. It still goes on in front of our eyes today. Someone called me to discuss that his daughter is on the campus of a leading university in the United States, and he has doubts whether they should continue, and because there's this rabid anti-Semitism on the college campus, which promotes even physical danger. So I told him a story, which is what rabbis are for. And the story is that a great rabbi in Europe was discussing a matter with a maskil, one of the enlightened ones that already had given up on observance. And in the midst of it, the rabbi's son came. He had to help the rabbi. And he had great deference for his father. And he treated him gently and with respect and nobility. And when he left, so the maskil said to the rabbi, he said, "That's one thing I'm jealous of you, because my children don't treat me that way. My children don't show me any deference, any respect." So the rabbi said to him, "Listen, you're a man of the world. Do you know geography?" And he said, "Yes, I know a little geography." He said, "Well, let me tell you a rule in geography, that if you go to Berlin, you don't come back from Slobodka." That's the choice. And it's a hard choice, because we don't want Slobodka either. But either or. And either or is the choice that Yitzchak emphasized in the blessings that he gave to Yaakov and to Esau. And I think that if you give it some thought, you'll realize that that's the entire story of the Jewish people over the past thousands of years. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thank you for coming. Saturday night, we have a magnificent lecture that you're invited to. Have a great Shabbat. Stay warm and stay dry. Shabbos.
The intent was to give space.
That's because he wanted to save Esau. That's a different,
Even with the same outcome.
Yeah. Right.